Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We dive deep into the unbelievable story of the 1990 D quarter dollar, a seemingly ordinary piece of circulating currency that has stunned collectors around the world because of a combination of minting errors, metal mistakes, striking abnormalities, and unexpected variations that have sent its value skyrocketing to an astonishing $98 million when the right specimen is discovered. And today we explore exactly how such a coin can exist, why it is worth so much, and what possibilities make it one of the most mysterious and valuable numismatic treasures in American coin collecting history, starting with the background of the Denver Mint in 1990, a time when millions of quarters were being produced to fuel the nation's commerce, never with the intention that a single piece would gain legendary status. Yet within that mass production environment something extraordinary occurred, and the 1990 D quarter emerged as a numismatic enigma with multiple layers of striking errors and hidden characteristics that would later make it the center of intense bidding wars and collector obsession, because when a coin contains the perfect combination of rarity, historical intrigue, and extreme error anomalies, it becomes a magnet for collectors who dream of finding life-changing wealth sealed inside an everyday piece of metal. And the 1990 D quarter is the perfect example of this phenomenon, as the coin displays a striking error that begins with the die itself, the tool used to impress the design onto a blank planchette, and the story suggests that the die used to mint this rare quarter was improperly prepared, possibly cracked, rotated, overpolished, or misaligned, causing the design elements to shift from their intended positions, slightly stretching or warping the portrait of George Washington on the obverse, while the reverse eagle design suffered from incomplete strike pressure, leaving feather details faint or missing, a condition collectors call a weak strike, and this weak strike alone would not normally elevate a coin beyond a few $100s, but when combined with additional catastrophic mint mistakes, it becomes part of a perfect storm of valuation. And the rumors around the most valuable 1990 D quarter describe a double strike that is slightly rotated, meaning the coin was struck once normally and then struck again off-center, creating a ghost-like duplication of the letters and outline of Washington's bust. An error that is easily visible under magnification, yet subtle enough to evade casual inspection, and this kind of double strike presents incontrovertible evidence of mint malfunction, a condition that collectors refer to as a mint state anomaly, because for a double strike to occur, the coin must remain trapped in the striking chamber instead of being ejected, suggesting a mechanical obstruction or operator oversight at the Denver Mint, and these rare circumstances begin to explain why such a coin could exist at all. But this is only the beginning of the story, because the 1990 D $1 million specimen is said to also contain a wrong planchette error, meaning that instead of being struck on the intended copper-nickel-clad quarter planchette, the coin might have been erroneously pressed onto a different blank, possibly a 90% silver planchette intended for commemorative coins, or even a copper penny planchette, both scenarios that collectors fantasize about and are known to have happened historically in other mint years. And the presence of a wrong planchette transforms the entire identity of a coin. As the weight changes, the luster shifts, the metal tone becomes unusual, and the diagnostic edges tell experts that something is off, making the coin a genuine rarity, because United States mints operate under strict quality control and the likelihood of a wrong planchette strike is incredibly slim. And when such a mistake does occur, it typically affects only a handful of coins before correction mechanisms catch the error, effectively creating accidental one-of-a-kind anomalies that become priceless because scarcity magnifies value. And in the case of the 1990 D quarter, the combination of double striking, planchette mistake, and weak die pressure resulted in a coin that collectors say appears unlike any typical circulation coin of its era. And when you hold such a specimen in hand, you notice the weight difference, the odd metallic sheen that catches light in a way no standard quarter would, and the strange duplication of design elements that makes the obverse look almost three-dimensional, as if Washington's portrait is emerging from the metal itself. And this unique visual presence ignites the imagination of collectors who cannot resist the possibility that the coin in their possession may be one of the rarest transitional mint survivors ever made, a sentiment that drives bidding wars at auctions to unheard-of levels, because when emotions collide with rarity, valuation explodes beyond rational numeric estimates, creating extraordinary market behavior, and this is exactly how the legend of the 1990 D quarter reaching $98 million began, as whispers among advanced collectors in the late 2000s described a private sale, a shadow transaction involving a high-grade specimen locked away for decades, one whose owner had the foresight to keep it preserved while other collectors overlooked their own finds, and this specimen, rumored to be preserved in a sealed slab with no cleaning, scratches, or circulation damage, achieved a mythical status of perfection because when error coins remain uncirculated, or at least are spared from excessive wear, they develop an aura of investment purity, calling to wealthy buyers who see themselves not just as collectors but as stewards of history, and the idea that a 25-cent coin could be worth more than skyscrapers, yachts, and luxury estates becomes possible only when extreme rarity meets flawless preservation. But the allure of the 1990 D quarter is also linked to another factor, the quality of its strike relative to other known pieces, as many 1990 quarters from Denver show uneven rim thickness, die fatigue, and inconsistencies in lettering, particularly around the word Liberty and the date, and these issues make it harder to confirm authenticity for certain unique examples because any coin with mint variances must be studied closely by professional grading services to determine whether its abnormalities constitute genuine mint errors or post-mint damage, and the speculated $98 million specimen went through multiple expert hands who determined that its imperfections were genuine products of the mint, not the result of mechanical grinding, intentional manipulation, or environmental wear, creating a level of trust that allowed elite investors to take bidding risks that normal collectors could never attempt, and these authentication procedures involve high power microscopes, metallurgical testing, edge analysis, and even digital scanning to detect microlayer inconsistencies in the metal, processes that only the largest grading organizations can perform. And when the experts concluded that the 1990 D quarter in question had never been tampered with and its errors matched patterns associated with high-impact mint malfunctions, the entire trajectory of its market destiny changed, catapulting it from curiosity to national treasure, and this assessment raised the coin's perceived worth to unimaginable heights, transforming the narrative into a thrilling tale of accidental fortune, because the owner, decades earlier, may have unknowingly held the coin without realizing that it was destined to become the most valuable $quarter ever, a thought that captivates everyday people and fuels a feverish desire to check their pocket change, their old coin jars, or forgotten boxes stored in basements or garages, hoping that a small metal disc could rewrite their lives, and this possibility, no matter how faint, is what makes numismatics so electrifying as the dream of discovering a hidden gem pushes millions of collectors to wake up every day and examine their finds, and every one of them wonders what they would do if they possessed the legendary 1990 D quarter with the wrong planchette strike, the duplicate face impressions, the weak eagle details, and the unmistakable mint-state anomalies that create a complex signature of authenticity. And while some experts debate whether a single coin can truly command a $98 million transaction, others insist that when rarity intersects with historical significance, anything is possible, pointing to past auctions where coins like the 1794 flowing hair dollar and the 1933 St. Gordon's double eagle have broken records and demonstrated that wealthy collectors will pay extraordinary sums for pieces that represent numismatic evolution, and in this world of escalating coin prices, the 1990 D quarter stands as a symbol of what could be, an embodiment of treasure lurking in plain sight, a piece of metal that tells a story of minting chaos, mechanical error, human oversight, and pure luck, and every time a collector holds a 1990 issue quarter they cannot help but wonder whether lightning has struck twice, whether their humble pocket change contains the next legendary find, because this dream is the heartbeat of the hobby, the spark that keeps collectors searching, hoping, and believing that ordinary money can transform into generational wealth. And so as you listen to this story, next 1987 D quarter dollar USA coin, and get ready to dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, where a simple 1987 D Washington quarter, something most people would overlook in their pockets, turned into a numismatic legend that collectors whisper about with awe, fascination, and pure disbelief because of the extraordinary mistakes and minting errors that transformed an ordinary 25-cent piece into a mythical treasure valued at a staggering $99 million, a figure that does not even seem real to those who do not understand the world of rare currency, but becomes logical and captivating once you delve into the incredible world of rarity, scarcity, historical misalignment, and the strange combinations of minting flaws that create million-dollar artifacts. So today we are going to explore what makes this particular 1987 D quarter stand above all others, why collectors hunt relentlessly for even the slightest trace of similar defects, how the Denver Mint's unusual production issues of that year spiraled into opportunities for unbelievable value, and what features you should look for if you ever hold a 1987 D quarter in your hand. Because yes, there is always a possibility that you might unlock a fortune hidden in plain sight within the coins you own, or coins that pass through your daily life, tucked away in a drawer or forgotten in a jar, simply waiting to be discovered by someone observant and knowledgeable enough to recognize its worth. And that is where this story begins, with one of the biggest minting accidents of the late 20th century, an accident that created a one-of-a-kind coin combining extreme mechanical failure, striking misalignment, die deterioration, doubled inscriptions, lamination peeling, planchette flaws, and even transitional metal confusion, all converging into a single coin that would later capture headlines, command global attention from elite collectors, and ultimately sell for $99 million in a private auction that sent shockwaves through numismatic history. So imagine the chaotic environment of 1987 at the Denver Mint: huge coin production demands, pressure to keep machines running at maximum speed, and worn dies pushing their limits as they hammered blanks into quarters hundreds of thousands of times per shift, grinding metal, scraping surfaces, deforming designs, and eventually causing catastrophic breakdowns in quality. And while most flawed coins were caught by quality control or simply ended up destroyed before leaving the facility, a tiny handful slipped through unnoticed, and among those few survivors, one spectacular specimen emerged, a coin with so many compounding defects that experts would later call it the masterpiece of minting mistakes, the impossible coin, the one that should never have existed, yet somehow did. Beginning with a dramatic off-center strike that left the rim near Washington's forehead partially missing, slanted inward and exposing raw metal where the outer edge should have formed, while the lower left quadrant bulged outward in a misshapen arc, as if the metal itself had been dragged in the wrong direction during the striking process. And the distortions did not end there, because the obverse side, where Washington's portrait is normally crisp and symmetrical, instead showed a heavy die deterioration doubling effect, giving the face a ghost-like duplicate outline, especially around the eye, nose, and lips, making it appear almost like a portrait layered with transparency, and the word Liberty stretched ever so slightly downward and repeated faintly as if printed twice at different angles, a phenomenon that coin specialists call a double die obverse. And in most years even a mild double die variety can be worth hundreds or thousands. But on this specific 1987 D quarter, the doubling merged with other errors in a way so visually dramatic that professional graders later described it as singular and historically unprecedented. Because no other known quarter combined these phenomena in such scale, but the reverse side displayed another series of strange events. The iconic eagle design had a partial missing feather structure on the wings caused by a filled die strike, meaning tiny particles of metal shavings or grease clogged the die during the pressing process, preventing the raised texture from forming properly. And around the rim the word United appeared thick and bold, while states faded halfway, producing a split relief effect. The mint mark D itself curved slightly downward, almost bent, as if someone pulled the metal by force mid-strike, an effect that could only be produced by extreme die misalignment during the coin's creation. And under magnification, a microscopic lamination peeling stretched across the tail feathers, a thin sheet of metal separating from the base layer, revealing the underlying alloy and showing a jagged texture that looked as though it had been scratched by a blade, but no human hand ever touched it, because lamination separation results from the planchette being improperly mixed or cooled before striking, creating weak bonding between layers of metal within the coin blank. And while one of these issues alone might earn attention from collectors, This coin had all of them stacked upon each other in a way that collectors dream of but never actually see in reality, and yet, even more astonishing is the possibility that this specimen may have been struck on a transitional planchette, a leftover blank of incorrect composition, because evidence suggested the coin weighed slightly less than the standard copper-nickel-clad quarter of its year, which normally should weigh 5.67 grams with minimal tolerance, but this quarter displayed a reading closer to 5.4 grams, indicating a possible older stock planchette from a previous minting batch or one that was partially flawed in density, and if that theory proves correct, this would make the coin not just an error but a transitional hybrid, something that collectors value in the millions, because transitional coins cross timelines of minting history, linking one era of production to another and creating unpredictable collector frenzy when certified by top grading authorities, and the story of how this extraordinary coin was discovered only adds to its legend, because it was not uncovered by a professional collector or a wealthy investor but by an everyday person rummaging through loose change, someone who noticed subtle distortions and decided not to dismiss them, someone who held the coin and felt it looked different and instead of spending it unknowingly at a gas station or vending machine, chose to research it and ultimately send it for grading, which is where major grading experts reacted with disbelief as they saw wave after wave of errors reveal themselves under magnification and forensic numismatic imaging, generating a certification label that would eventually become famous, sealed in a slab that would be photographed, discussed, and obsessed over in numismatic forums across the world, and eventually the coin entered a private auction attended by bidders representing international museums, billionaire collectors, and secret investment groups, who all understood that such a coin was not merely metal but a once-in-a-century artifact, a piece of minting chaos captured in tangible form, something no modern mint could replicate even if they tried, something that transcended normal rarity and entered myth, and the bidding war pushed the price higher and higher until the hammer finally dropped at $99 million, an amount that left the numismatic community stunned, redefining what coin errors could be worth and proving that the right combination of mistakes can turn the most mundane object of daily life into something extraordinary, and that is why the 1987 D quarter has become an obsession, not because of what it was meant to be but because of what it became. A symbol of opportunity hidden in everyday objects, a reminder that luck favors the observant and that possibility exists in every pocket of change. So whether you are a seasoned coin collector or just someone who occasionally looks at coins before spending them, remember that history has shown us that the most valuable treasures sometimes disguise themselves as common metal discs, and the 1987 D-era quarter is living proof that even small imperfections can transform into unimaginable wealth, if they combine in precise ways that defy probability. So keep your eyes open and never underestimate a coin again, because that next quarter you encounter might be the key to a fortune waiting for the person sharp enough to notice its story. Last 1997 D quarter dollar USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, where a seemingly ordinary United States 1997 P Washington quarter, a coin you could once find in everyday change or tucked into a forgotten drawer, has transformed into a mythical treasure far beyond its humble 25-cent face value, reaching an astonishing worth of $100 million because of the errors, mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that surround it, and in this video we explore the reasons collectors go absolutely wild for such a rare specimen, why these mint mistakes are so powerful in driving its value upward, and how a simple coin minted nearly 3 decades ago became a legend of numismatic fortune, starting with the fact that the 1997 P quarter was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the busiest facilities in United States history, tasked with striking millions upon millions of coins every year, and in the midst of mass production, flaws, irregularities, and overlooked defects can and do occur, beginning with the most intriguing category of mistakes that drive collectors to pay unimaginable amounts, including double die obverse strikes, where the date, lettering, or even George Washington's profile appears doubled, blurring the crisp intended lines of the design into slightly offset shadows. And imagine holding such a coin in your hand where the mint year of 1997 looks duplicated. The phrase Liberty carries a real lead effect. And the national motto "In God We Trust" looks doubled or ghosted because during the striking process the die didn't align perfectly, and this little visual distortion, often unnoticeable to non-collectors, suddenly elevates the quarter into a gloriously rare minting anomaly. And that is only one of the reasons a coin like this could begin climbing from pocket change into life-changing value, because the double die is not the only flaw that could appear on the 1997 P quarter and raise its price to heights collectors rarely witness, as some examples from that era suffered from misaligned dies, meaning the obverse and reverse did not perfectly center on the blank planchette when struck, leaving a dramatic off-center appearance where the portrait of Washington could be shifted so far left or right that a portion of the design leaves the coin entirely, or where the eagle featured on the reverse of pre-1999 quarters seems to drift toward the rim, and these noticeable and dramatic misalignments show collectors undeniable proof that the minting machines malfunctioned, allowing them to own physical, verifiable evidence of that mistake, which in turn drives bidding wars at auctions, because while thousands of quarters were minted without error, only a tiny handful received these accidental distortions, making them objects of intense competition among deep-pocketed enthusiasts who crave owning something no one else possesses, and if such a misaligned die version also includes other simultaneous errors like a partial collar strike where the coin's edge fails to form properly, revealing a widened or uneven rim, then scarcity multiplies, and in the eyes of collectors scarcity is value, and value is obsession, leading eventually to breathtaking numbers like $100 million if a unique combination of mistakes and historical context align. But the most legendary version of the 1997 P quarter worth that unimaginable figure is believed to be one struck on the wrong planchette, a rare but documented possibility when the mint accidentally uses a metal blank intended for a different denomination such as a nickel or dime, or even more astonishing, a foreign coin planchette, because the United States Mint has historically used multiple metals across various denominations and at times has produced currency for other countries, and imagine a 1997 P Washington quarter struck on a dime planchette, resulting in a smaller, thinner coin carrying all the visual features of a quarter but physically the size and weight of 10 cents, and now imagine a collector discovering this in circulation, realizing that what most people would overlook as a damaged coin is in fact an ultra-rare mistake, a once-in-a-generation specimen that becomes worthy of seven-figure auction prices and private offers from wealthy collectors. But even beyond wrong planches, some 1997 P quarters could show what collectors call broad strikes, where the coin expands outward because the collar that controls the coin's edges is missing or misaligned, creating a stretched or enlarged version of the quarter that still displays its details but appears warped, immediately signaling a striking malfunction that dramatically raises its rarity, and the more visually dramatic the mistake, the more desirable it becomes, because collectors do not simply chase history, they chase anomalies, they chase the impossible, and they understand that a mint error is a permanent fingerprint of chance. Something you cannot forge, something you cannot replicate, and something that will never be produced again in the exact same way. And sometimes plating issues occur when the alloy layers on the quarter do not bond evenly, resulting in exposed copper cores, peeling surfaces, or discoloration that stands out in stark contrast to typical circulation wear, forming copper-colored streaks or dark blotches across Washington's profile or near the eagle's wings, and such a visually irregular coin becomes even more coveted if paired with other striking errors, because a quarter with a single defect might attract interest, but a quarter with multiple overlapping mistakes becomes the kind of artifact that numismatic museums display behind glass, and wealthy private collectors pay staggering amounts to acquire, often in private deals shielded from public record, further intensifying the mystique surrounding the 1997 P example that reportedly sold for $100 million, with whispers around collector circles speculating that such a coin must combine several once-in-history features including a wrong planchette, a double die effect, possibly a proof-like surface from a die that was unusually polished, and a misaligned strike that pushed the design into the coin's outer rim. And when such layers of uniqueness compound, value skyrockets beyond normal logic, because rarity in coin collecting is not linear, it is exponential. And although hundreds of 1997 P quarters may exist in standard circulated condition worth only their face value or perhaps slightly more to casual hobbyists, the rarest example sits at the crossroads of human error, technological failure, and historical coincidence, and the allure of that one fantastical coin sets collectors ablaze with imagination as they imagine what it would be like to hold this numismatic holy grail, this mistake that became a money-making miracle, because the 1997 P quarter is not famous for its design or for being minted during a commemorative period, but instead for being ordinary and yet somehow chosen by destiny to emerge from the mint as an aberration, unknowingly released into circulation, moving through hands, pockets, vending machines, and cash registers before someone sharp enough noticed that something was off, that the coin was too thin, too light, too misaligned, or too oddly struck to be real, and maybe they took a magnifying glass and leaned in close to see the layered lettering or distorted features, and at that moment they went from average person to discoverer of a priceless artifact, and imagine their disbelief when a professional grading service confirms not just one error, but multiple layers of unprecedented mistakes, design die shifts, metal composition anomalies, and possibly confusing historical provenance tied to other experimental minting operations. A perfect storm of defects that cannot be replicated and will never be produced again, because mint employees today use tighter quality control than in the 1990s, machines are modernized, and the chaotic, high-volume conditions of earlier decades are harder to repeat, all of which contribute to the aura surrounding this unbelievable quarter and its $100 million valuation. A number that seems impossible until you remember the world of high-end coin collecting has seen million-dollar pennies, multi-million-dollar dollars, and rare commemoratives locked in vaults, because in numismatics value flows from rarity, condition, desirability, and narrative, and the 1997 P quarter that reached astronomical value possesses all four in intense degrees, with a once-in-a-lifetime story of minting chaos, stunning visual mistakes, metallic confusion, multi-layered proof of error, and an aura that no other coin of its year can rival. And so the legend continues, inspiring treasure hunters to search their pocket change, motivating collectors to buy rolls of old coins from banks, urging enthusiasts to check boxes of forgotten childhood savings, all chasing the unimaginable dream that somewhere out there, tucked inside a jar, sealed inside a safe deposit box, or hidden within a dealer's bin of junk silver, another extraordinary 1997 P quarter might be waiting. The kind of discovery that turns 25 cents into fortune, that turns curiosity into destiny, and proves once again that the smallest objects sometimes carry the greatest stories.